Steph, everyone. I hope you're doing incredible. I am coming on today to share some insights, some tips, some strategies about how to actually reverse engineer a $1 million month. I actually had a phone call a little bit earlier today with one of my inner circle clients, and we were creating strategy for her. And as I was on the call, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I was recording this call because it's so fire, the strategy that we actually created. And she was like, oh my God, I actually see where I can actually do it. And it's pretty insightful. So as you're coming on and you're watching this live, I would love for you to, number one, just say hi, let me know who's here so that as you're coming on live, and you're watching it live, I can say hi to you. But a few other things I'd love to know. Number one, where's your practice located? So that'd be pretty cool. And also, I'd love to also know, like, what's your position? Like, do you own a practice, or are you an associate, or you startup? Like, where are you in your practice journey? Maybe like how many years you've been practicing. But yeah, no, let's just do like if you're an owner, if you're an associate, if you're a startup, that'd be awesome. And if you're interested in learning, like, what did we talk about to reverse engineer to actually have a $1 million month? I'd love for you to go ahead and put that in. So, many of you guys have heard about me talking about this circle of focus, right? How do we actually create a plan, a strategy where we can map out our next year and predetermine what we're actually going to focus on in terms of being able to offer specific services, how many of them are we going to offer? If we're not at the point where we feel like we can do it yet, what do we need to do to ensure that we can get there? Whether it's going to be verbal skills training, whether it's going to be implementing frameworks and systems to hold us accountable to actually hitting the goals, right? So, one of the things that we talked about probably about maybe 3 or 6 months ago when we were on the call with this particular doctor is that we wanted to have her to introduce higher value services. And so, one of the services that we talked about was actually implementing sleep. Now, what's interesting is that as she started to consider this option for her practice, she had some reservations, as so many colleagues have. A lot of dentists, as we know, I'm one of them, are very analytical in our minds. And so we have this mindset of, oh my gosh, I can't afford it, or it's going to cost a lot of money, or I'm not sure if I can do this, right? And one thing that we talked about and I share with her is if it makes you money, it actually costs you nothing. And or I asked her that question. I said, like, are you willing to trade? Like, if it costs you 40 grand or 50 grand to train your team, are you willing to give or invest the first 5 cases of revenue that you will get to be able to get that knowledge so that now you have the ability to produce that income for as long as you are in your career, as well as now have a higher skill set so that you can actually heal and help more people. And so when she thought about it that way, she was like, you know what, I'm actually going to do it. And one of the other tips that we shared for her is the quicker you can get the knowledge, the quicker you can get your team on board, the quicker everybody is understanding the process, the faster you're going to be able to implement. And we also spoke about the power of shortcuts, which is really, again, just going in, getting whatever support you need once you make a decision. And so we have been focusing on creating very simple processes that allows her to be able to set specific goals of how many cases she's going to hit and looking at some specifics of how we can actually implement it. I'll share a little bit about that as well. But she made a decision to go ahead. And so as she made a decision, she's like, I've got a few patients that are lined up for sleep. I'm really excited about it. And so now I'm looking at, like preparing for the future in terms of like next year we're going to be in a much better place. And I said, this is what I need you to think about. And by the way, guys, like I'm going to be sharing the strategy of how we reverse engineered $1 million month. So you definitely want to make sure that you're staying to the end. Maybe tag some people in this video so that they can watch it as well. Because it was certainly fire. Again, we were on the call. I'm like, oh my God, I should be recording this. Now, one thing that I need you guys to understand, if you think about a tree, I don't know how many of you guys have seen a mango tree, but a mango tree is one of those trees that once it starts bearing fruit, it can't stop. In fact, it's bearing so much fruit that it's just dropping all over the ground. They're splattering. Like I've had dogs that are swallowing seeds, and it's just like there's just so many mangoes, right? But the thing about it is that a mango tree didn't just start bearing mangoes on the first day. And oftentimes, what happens is that we see practice owners that are doing 2 million, 3 million, 4 million that are taking lavish vacations, that are able to pull a lot of profits, right? Like, so people look at where I'm at with my practice when I say, I could see a patient or not see a patient. And at the end of the day, we're pulling out hundreds of thousands of dollars, or I am, in profits. But what people don't see with that mango tree or that apple tree is that when you first planted the seed, what happened is that you had to actually go down to be able to go up. And as you planted the seed and the tree started to grow, it actually had to go through murky, dark waters and murky, dark places and moist, damp places in order to actually get deep seated with the roots. And then and only then was the tree able to grow. And now it's at a place where you really don't have to think about it, right? And so that's kind of like where she was 6 months ago, 9 months ago, as we started like working on all of the systems and processes and case acceptance. And so it's really exciting now, to see her in a really, really short time actually implementing. She's like, I invested, I took my whole team there. So as we started looking at strategy, I said, well, here's the thing, like, how can you actually reverse engineer having $1 million additional revenue coming into your practice? Because a lot of times people think it's really hard. And what I often share with dental colleagues, like when we're doing strategies, is that is actually not really hard at all. In fact, it's not really hard to hit any goals at all once you actually have a plan. By the way, as you guys are watching this, if you can just type in if you're an owner, practice owner, if you're an associate, if you're a startup, just so I can get a feeling of who's watching this video, who's in the room, that'd be super helpful for me. So I don't know if how many of you guys have actually read this book or heard of this book, Think and Grow Rich. I actually shared this with the doctor earlier today. And what's really interesting about this book is it doesn't say like go out and do things and be rich, or like take a bunch of action and be rich. It actually says think, think and grow rich. And oftentimes what I see are people are like super busy bees. Like, oh, let me go try this, let me do this, let me do this. And like they're just working and working and working and working and working, and like nothing's happening, right? And so I say this thing um, like, and we've been told this lie by cultural hypnotic societal mechanism, like by our parents, that if you just work hard, then you'll be successful. And like we're dentists, we have worked hard. Like, can we all agree? Like, if you type in work hard, like we've worked hard, right? Like we've gotten an education, and then we keep working hard. But then the question is like, are you rich? Right? Like, do you have freedom? Do you have time freedom? Can you take vacations? And oftentimes the answer is no. So is it really doing more work? Is it really being active? Or what I've discovered, the secret for me for building two multi-million dollar businesses that are running at the same time. One, my dental practice. Number two, our coaching program where we're helping other dentist entrepreneurs be able to do the same thing, is that it always starts with think. It always starts with think. So what do you mean by that? Right? And so the biggest thing that I can do with an owner, the biggest thing that you can do is take time to actually think about your strategy. Think about how can we make that happen. And so for practice owners, or if you're getting into a new service, I'm challenging you to think about, or if you're already doing a service, maybe you're doing sleep, maybe you're doing implants, uh, maybe you're doing sleep appliances, right? And so I said, let me ask you a question. Let's reverse engineer this. Are you ready? She's like, yes. Are you ready to reverse engineer an extra million in revenue? She's like, absolutely. So, all right, let's do it. And so what we talked about is if you can now have sleep cases and you are wanting to do $1 million, let's reverse engineer that. And if a case is $8,000 revenue, how many cases is that? And she calculated it, and I think it was like 129 cases or something like that. And I said, okay, what if we now reverse that engineer it and said how many more cases per month, right? And so the number actually calculated at 10. And I'm like, all right. So now the next question that we need to think about is how do we get 10 cases? And how do we reverse engineer that? And so what's really interesting is that, and guys, if you're loving this, like if you can tag somebody into this video, because this is fire. And for me, I really want you guys to get this. I really want as many colleagues to get this because we are oftentimes working so hard and it's really not that hard. All right. It's really not that hard. So if you can tag someone, tag 5 people into this chat, get people into the Facebook group, invite them in, say yes so that I can see you here so that more people can see this video as it's coming out. And so I said, okay, so now that's 10 per month. So how do we get 10 per month? Right? And based on her current patient base, I'm like, if we can give out 30 sleep rings, 30, just 30, like if you've got 30 patients that are snoring per month, like, so you're asking the questions, how do we give out 30 sleep rings? How do we hold ourselves accountable to that? Right? So putting in systems, putting in a whiteboard where now you can look at it every day and it can show you of your goal of 30, how many have you done? Just by looking at it is going to hold you and your team accountable to asking a simple question. Do you snore? Does a family member snore? There's something that we can do to help you. Would you like to learn more? The patient is saying yes, right? From there, you're giving out the sleep ring and you're saying, I'm going to give you this so that we can see what's happening, so that we can understand if you actually have sleep apnea. And if so, we very likely have a solution for you. What time can you come back on Friday so that we can evaluate and see what things look like, right? And so as you're giving out your sleep rings, if you are giving out 30 rings, reverse engineer that. Statistics show that 20, 30% are going to actually move forward. And so now the question becomes not how do we have $1 million extra revenue in a year, or the question doesn't become how do we get 10 patients to move forward. The question actually becomes how can we give out 30 rings? And so that becomes a lot easier, right, to be able to do. Now, the strategy that I talked to her is I said, you know what, like that's all great, good, and fine and dandy, but how can we do it faster? Like, how can we actually collapse timeframes? And so as we started looking at how can we actually do it faster, like, here's the thing. What if you were to go and hire a publicist, hire somebody to get you on the morning talk shows in your local community? One of my inner circle members in my coaching program did exactly that. And next thing you know, she is on the morning news in her local community. And next thing you know, that happens a few times. And so now they're now just asking her to come back. And people are asking her because they see her as an expert. But what if you pay for that opportunity? What if you pay a publicist to actually make that happen? What if you pay somebody even 5 grand? What if you have an opportunity to pay and get on Good Morning America? I don't know, right? But once you get into this opportunity, people say, well, that's going to cost me, right? And guys, again, like the mindset here is really interesting because even as people are looking at more team members, more employees, right? Like if you're going to make more revenue from that team member coming in, you're not paying them anything. The revenue that they're generating is actually paying them, right? Like that's how it happens. And so if you're paying $2,000, $3,000 to be able to get that exposure, and now you're bringing people in, then now you can grow faster, right? Is that making sense? So type in yes if that's making sense. And so I challenged her. I said, let's just see if we could actually get this done faster. Because now we're looking at 120 cases. What if you went all in 1 month and you made a decision that you're going to create a huge campaign and huge awareness about patients who are snoring, patients who have sleep apnea? What if you went on and you got on TV? What if every patient you talked to them about it and you really went all in? What if you were doing Facebook Lives? What if you went out to other physicians and let them know that you were going to have a screening day where you can screen people for free who are snoring to see if they have sleep apnea? And this is a public service awareness sort of thing, right? Like, you want to be able to get people in and see if they are, and at no cost, you're screening them and you have this day, right? What if you had that done and you had the ability to get 100 people to actually start, right? What if you did it over 2 months, right? Now you can take that 120 starts and you can actually do it in 1 month. Like, isn't that crazy? And so as we start looking at how hard is it or how easy is it to grow our practices, again, like, I want you to start thinking about how do we think and then grow rich, right? But it's more than think and grow rich. It's like, so oftentimes people tell me, like, I don't want to make more money. I don't want to, like, I went into dentistry because I want to help people, not because, like, I'm money motivated. And I agree with you, right? I absolutely agree with you. Um, and I also agree that when we are learning how to better communicate, when we're asking patients if you're snoring or if you're not snoring, now we have the ability to heal more people. And so that's what it's about. But what happens with that extra revenue, right? Where do we all of a sudden get this belief that having more money is a bad thing, right? Almost like, if we have more money, money's going to run out, like oxygen, right? Like, you don't see people walking around like, right? Because they're afraid, oh, the oxygen is going away, right? Allowing you to have more money allows you to be able to do more things. It allows you to be able to help your team members to buy their first homes, to be able to send their kids to better schools. It allows you to be able to take the money and to be able to go and do philanthropy. It allows you to be able to um, do more for your kids, take your kids on vacations, put them in better schools, right? And I used to feel really bad about verbalizing that I wanted to make more, until I really realized that, like, for me, like, the more money you make, the bigger impact you can make. And at this point, like, I don't apologize when my aging parents are saying, "Can you help me?" Or I don't apologize if my kids are asking if they can go to a summer program and it costs a lot of money and I'm able to say yes. I don't apologize when team members are having things happening in their personal lives and I'm able to help them to be able to make that happen. And so, again, just wanted to come on and share this. Was this helpful for you guys? If you guys, I see we've got a few people that are watching us live. If this is helpful, go ahead and type in helpful, 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 helpful. Hopefully it was super helpful for you. And if you can, go ahead and tag in some others who are in the group so that they can see this video. That would be incredible. I'm also letting you guys know, as many of you guys have seen, if you've not yet seen, we are going to have a business acceleration boot camp. That's going to be coming up, and it's going to be coming up pretty soon. So August the 22nd through 25th, we're going to be having our 4-day boot camp, and we are going to be helping you to learn how to add accountability in your practice. Oftentimes people are saying, oh my gosh, this slipped through the cracks, and I can't believe that my credentialing slipped and the team never knew about it. Or I can't believe that, like, we're not where we want to be, where we said we want to be. So we're going to share with you exactly how to make that happen. We're also going to be going really deep into teaching you verbal skills so that you'll be able to close those big cases. What's been really exciting in boot camp in the past is having doctors come on and the very next day they're like, oh my God, Anissa, what you shared really worked, right? Like, I went and shared that or asked that patient that one question, and all of a sudden we close a $40,000 case today. Like, this is, and I'm like, of course you did, right? Like, you follow the framework. And so, really excited to share that. We're going to be, many of you guys are wanting to go fee for service. We're going to be sharing how practices are going fee for service, understanding your numbers. And if you're not sure, or if you're not wanting to, how can we become more profitable as a PPO? We're going to be sharing more strategies of how you can reverse engineer your numbers and how you can grow exponentially within the next 12 months. And we're also going to be showing you, how do you hire in this environment? How do you empower your team members, and how do you get them aligned to your vision, working really, really fast with you? So super excited about all of that. If you've been in our past boot camp, go ahead and type in boot camp. If you are looking forward to boot camp, or if you've not yet been, say not yet been. But we look forward to having you. And sometimes I'll hear people say, "Oh, I've done that before." But the question that I ask you is, have you actually implemented? Is your practice running like a well-oiled machine? Because oftentimes what happens is people get into boot camp the first time, and they have this awareness like, "Oh my God, these are really wonderful ideas." But you can't implement everything, right? Because there's so much stuff. Like, I give you so much learning. And oftentimes you can only apply like one or two or three things. And so even if you've done boot camp before, even if you're in our coaching program, today I did a coaching call for doctors and teams. I think we had about 60 people on there. You guys heard me say that I want to see all of you guys in boot camp, right? Like, it exponentially fast tracks you getting to your goals. And for me, it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to spread this knowledge. And for me, I don't like to hoard things in. Like, if we can share knowledge, then more people can help more patients, more doctors can help change their lives and change the lives of their team members. And so, looking forward to seeing all of you guys. If you're joining boot camp, or if you've been through boot camp before, I do have a favor. I would love if you can commit to going on and make that commitment. I'm actually challenging you to invite 3 or 4 colleagues to join you in boot camp and do it with you, so that they can now hold you accountable and you can now hold them accountable to showing up every night, to doing the work, so that your lives and your businesses can change forever. All right. So if you guys are committed, go ahead and type in committed. I'm going to go ahead and share in the link. It's actually delivering wildchallenge.com/business bootcamp. But I encourage you guys to, again, not just do it alone, but actually bring in 3 people, 4 people, so that you can help change their lives forever as well. All right, guys, I hope this was super helpful for you. If you're just joining at the end of the slide, make sure you go back and watch it again. We share lots of fire strategies, and I look forward to chatting with you.